There's a concept called the butterfly effect. You might be familiar with it, right? Basically, what it says is this guy traveled back in time and he went to the prehistoric era and he accidentally stepped on a branch. So then he went forward in time to the present day and everything had changed. It's a compound effect over time to lead a person into the direction, whether they realize it or not. Because that guy went back in time, stepped on a branch. That branch could have been fertilizer for the next tree that was going to grow. And that tree didn't exist, so it didn't have seedlings and it didn't produce seeds, and those didn't produce seedlings. So it changed the course of history.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back, or welcome to my channel. If this is your first time, I am here again today with my good friend Arjuna, and we are back for another sort of magical discussions video. I recently did, well, first off, everyone say hello to Arjuna. Thank you for being here. It's always a pleasure. I'm so grateful to have you
Yeah.
on the channel, and just for you as a friend and as a person and everything. So
Awesome to have you. What do you want to talk about today? I mean, it's awesome to be on here, not awesome to have you. But
yeah.
what do you want to talk about today? What shall we get into? What kind of shenanigans should we talk about?
Yeah, so I recently did a video just briefly that touched on quantum shifting slash quantum jumping and magic, and how we can essentially use both of those tools to manifest the reality we desire and to identify that desire. And so so if people aren't familiar with what quantum jumping is, they can go watch that video. We can get into that a little bit, but I wanted to kind of take it a step further today and talk about, how do we make that how do we physically do that quantum jump? Because in the previous video, I talked about quantum jumping being this sort of meditative practice that you do where you're doing a lot of visualization and sort of finding resonance with a higher timeline of ourselves that we want to embody, that we want to align with. And I didn't really get into how we can actually take those steps. I did say a little bit that, like, we can use magic as a tool as well to help us, to help guide us on that path and to shift realities a bit in our favor. But, like, how, if I'm practicing quantum jumping, which you're familiar with the term, right? Quantum.
Uh, I know what you're talking about, but I don't know it as quantum jumping.
Okay. What do you know it as, like, what do you know it as?
Uh, well, just like shifting through timelines.
Okay. I mean, yeah, it's essentially the same thing. It's just kind of
Mhm.
coined this term from somebody. So, but yeah, just shifting, accessing higher timelines and aligning with those. And it gets into, like, the whole multiverse, the multiverse that
Mhm.
exists, and how there's a version of us that's literally every possible scenario somewhere out there. So, in quantum jumping, we're first getting in touch with ourselves and asking, what do I want? Who do I want to be? What do I see for myself? What is, hopefully, if we're doing this, we're trying to access a higher timeline, something better than present, not a lower timeline, but whatever, you can use it however you want. But in this case, we'll be talking about accessing higher timelines. So how after I've, done that visualization and seen that higher timeline, and have that clarity of intention, that clarity of vision, really, how do I go about actually taking the next, like, the physical step to get there, right? Because otherwise it's just like I was dreaming it or something, it's not manifested in the physical yet. And so
Mhm.
um, I'll turn it over to you in a second. I know we've kind of touched on this in another video too in the past about the power of our choices. And
Mhm.
ultimately, the ways to access these higher timelines, or this focused higher timeline that we want to access, is through the choices that we make, right? And of course, opportunities that are presented to us and stuff. But we if we make the same choice that we've always made about a certain thing, we're going to get the same outcome most likely. But if we want to shift to a higher timeline, that means we need to make different choices that will lead us there.
Mm-hmm.
And these choices that we make allow us to either elevate to a higher timeline or the opposite, right? And but how for people that are maybe that have done the maybe quantum jumping meditative practice or accessing higher timeline, how can we be clear on what the right choice is,
Mm-hmm.
or just knowing sort of the first step to take if there's not even a choice available, which first there's usually always a choice available, right? But
Mm-hmm.
if circumstances remain the same, what can we do to start to move differently, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah.
I'll pass it to you. Okay.
Yeah, I love this because it's this aspect of the discussion of the choices and things like that is not intimately tied to magic, but it's very much a part of it because there was, if you think about it, everything in your life and everything in my life had to happen exactly the way they did in order for us to be here together today on a Zoom call. Like every single decision that we made, whether it's turning left at the stoplight instead of right, or something as small as picking up that penny on the ground, like every decision that we made led us to this decision, to this instance and point in time. So that's a very macro way of looking at it. But if we try to look at it on the micro level, well, there are certain decisions and things that, yeah, we can make on a daily basis, seemingly doesn't make that big of an impact. But what I'm really referring to is there's a concept called the butterfly effect. You might be familiar with it, right?
I've heard of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And then there was a short story that we had to read in literature class in ninth or 10th grade. And basically what it says is this guy traveled back in time and he went to the prehistoric era and he accidentally stepped on a branch. So then he went forward in time to the present day and everything had changed. Like the letters that we normally know as the 26 letters of English, some of them were distorted. Like it was just like if you think about it, what ended up happening, it's a compound effect over time to lead a person into the direction, whether they realize it or not. Because that guy went back in time, stepped on a branch. That branch could have been fertilizer for the next tree that was going to grow, and that tree didn't exist, so it didn't have seedlings, and it didn't produce seeds, and those didn't produce seedlings. So it changed the course of history.
Mm,
Now, that's very complicated to understand from like a mystical perspective. Why are we talking about that? We're just talking about making small decisions. Like it shouldn't matter if I turn left to get this way or if I go the long way, but it does because how many people might have been behind you in the alternate route that ended up being late for work, and that person would have missed a very important meeting. And if they missed a meeting, then a very good product may not have been developed. And in 15 years, we might not have that product. Like it's just, these are all possibilities. And that's what quantum really is it's the world of possibilities.
mm,
So if we channel ourselves to the desired outcome, like, um, for instance, when I do magic, I'm focusing on a particular outcome, whether it's 3 months away, 6 months away, 10 years down the line. That's my ending place.
mm,
So that means the series of decisions that I make from here to the ending place have to line up to that outcome. Because if I don't make those choices, like let's say I do wealth magic and
mm,
I'm making really bad decisions with my money, well, I'm not doing what's conducive to have that end result because that's a level of dissonance that I think sometimes people in the magic community can kind of fall victim to. Not everybody, but I have noticed it sometimes that they want to become very wealthy, so they start spending money as if they're wealthy, and then they wonder why the magic's not working. Well,
mhm,
there's a dissonance there.
mhm.
So that's that's where I go with that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, thank you. Those were all good points. It all comes down to sort of that aligned action, but then again, we're only human, right? And it's I don't know how unlikely it is, but to me it seems unlikely that every single choice we make is going to be aligned, is going to be the right choice, you know? Because some days we may just feel like screwing around and making the wrong choice, or some days, you know, we may just make a mistake. And so, but if you take that a step back and look at it further, if you eventually end up like still getting to your goal, was that choice that we thought was a mistake, was it truly a mistake, or was it necessary, was it a necessary provision for where you were on that timeline, you know, and just to
Hmm.
help your growth and stuff. And so as far as like where to begin, you know, if you're really wanting to access these higher timelines, I mean, the scale, the varying degrees of like the level of choices that we can make are endless, right? Like it can be something like, okay, well, let me move away, let me move somewhere else, you know, like let me move to a new town or place, or even just move down the street, change of environment. Or it can be something as simple as, you know what, I got out of bed on that side yesterday, I'm going to get out of bed on the other side. And that might have an impact in changing the rest of your day, you know? And how can we tell though if these choices are right, if they're aligned, you know? And so I was thinking about this, and it's difficult to, you know, unless you're a experienced meditator, or, you know, are really in tune with your own energy, it's difficult to be so consciously present and self-aware that at every point, at every choice I'm making in the day, I'm thinking, you know, is this, what direction is this choice going to go? You know, I don't do that. You know, if I don't always like think about why am I going to turn right at this light, you know. Um, there are times when we make these choices that we can feel it inside our bodies, right? If it's the right choice or if it's the wrong choice. Like choosing to do a video with you tonight made me feel excited, you know, made me feel happy, made me feel inspired. And today I've been like dragging and kind of like tired and everything. And now it's like, okay, well, I got this new energy and it feels good to me. You know, my body is like, yes, like let's do that, my energy. And you know, and if we sometimes make wrong choices, I think it's important, what I'm getting at is I think it's important to listen to the body's reaction, to like listen to how we react to whatever sort of choice, whatever sort of result could manifest from the choice we're trying to make. You know, like if we are at
Hmm.
a fork in the road, and so to speak, and we're choosing, okay, do I go right or do I go left? And I can potentially see, based on the information I have, what would result if I were to go right. But I don't actually know until I go right, right? And then same thing with if I were to go left. Like I can think about what I think would happen if I were to go left based on the information and the variables and stuff, but I won't actually know until I get there. But usually, you know, if we are in tune with ourselves enough, and I would think that if you're practicing quantum jumping, then you must have like practiced meditating at some point in time, especially if you're a magician or spiritual at any point, you know. So being able to sort of turn inward and listen to how our body feels about each choice. Is this
Hmm.
making sense what I'm saying, kind of?
Yep. Yep.
Yes. Okay,
Absolutely.
good. So, you know, if I'm looking to go right and what I'm envisioning is not something good, and or maybe I don't even know that it's not good, but my body tenses up, you know, or
Hmm. Hmm.
I feel stressed, or I just don't feel good, right? There's that physiological reaction that whether or not I have a mental answer, my body is telling me no, you know. But a lot of the times humans, myself included, will not listen to what my body's saying and will do it anyways for whatever reason that I want to do it. and
Hmm.
and you know, and then sometimes ignore the one that maybe we know is right, but then we don't do it anyways, maybe because it's scary, it's unfamiliar. You know, when it comes to aligning with the timeline, the highest timeline that we want to align with, you know, it's likely that we may only feel self-aware enough at major decisions to really listen to ourselves, you know, to really
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, I have time to think about this. But in reality, it's the little decisions too that make up just make just as much of an impact as a major choice does, right? Like, for example, going back to the moving example, I can move across the country to another country down the street, I can move somewhere. But if I'm doing the exact same thing that I was doing where I was living before in this new place, am I really going to have much of a different outcome? You know, am I really going to access a different timeline if I'm making the same decisions that I know weren't aligned with my highest timeline in the past in this new place? Because the space isn't going to fix it for me. External circumstances aren't going to fix it for me. I have to do it internally first. And yes, we can
Mm-hmm.
use like magic to help to shift the external energies and stuff, but it all starts within us and within like knowing what we want and stuff. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I mean? So
Yeah.
yeah. So I
I
think,
want to.
yeah,
Oh,
go
go
ahead,
ahead.
go ahead. No, I've been talking.
Okay, so you were touching on something a little bit earlier, and you were like alluding to it, and I want to expand on that because you said when your body kind of knows the decision that you make, that's actually very powerful, and I agree. It's one of those things that humans in general, I'm very guilty of it. I don't listen to it sometimes,
Mhm.
but just recently here in Houston, we had a crazy storm. Not the hurricane that just happened like 2 weeks ago. That wasn't even honestly that bad at all. It was just the power was not set up right in Houston. But in, I want to say May or June, we had a 10-minute storm. That's it. And I had this sensation in my body that's so strong that the way I described it to my wife is like, hey, look, I don't have a good feeling. The only other times that I've ever had this feeling is when I'm about to get pulled over by the cops. Like, I know without even seeing a cop that I'm about to get pulled over and I'm about to go to jail. Like
Man,
that's how strong of a psychic sense that was. Not everybody has that, obviously, not everybody has it that strong. But
yeah.
funny enough, I had that feeling for the storm, and the storm wiped out half of Houston.
Wow.
So that's like an extreme example of being sensitive to my body, being sensitive to something out there, because that didn't come from within me. It was
Mhm.
my body responding to something outside of me,
Yes.
maybe tuning into the energies that were coming ahead of the storm, something like that. But
Mhm.
now let's think about it to the micro level or like the day-to-day decisions, right? Where maybe someone's trying to uh I have a good one. So someone's doing romance magic. They're trying to find a partner
Mhm.
and they have a bad habit of smoking cigarettes. And so they're lighting up a cigarette and they're wondering to themselves, should I smoke this cigarette? And like a lot of people don't find smoking attractive, so that
Mhm.
already is eliminating how much? Let's just say 50% of the dating pool.
Mhm.
So then that person is thinking to themselves, maybe I should start quitting smoking. Maybe it has nothing to do with anything, but that person is doing romance magic, and that romance magic is working in the background. And because it's working in the background, there's like an influence because that energy is being channeled into that person who is trying to find a mate. And it's just like these things that don't seem to be correlated, but
Mhm.
they are.
Yes.
And I had a person comment on my channel on my cash magical cash book
Mhm.
video,
Mhm.
and he didn't leave a nasty remark, but he was kind of like just like calling me out basically because
Mhm.
what I said was I wanted like $1,000 or whatever. I didn't say the number, I don't think, but some of that came through gifts. Some of that came through discounts on meals. Some of that came through credit line increases. And the guy, as much as I want to give him credit for sounding like he has a reasonable argument, he said, "Come on, man, none of those things are actually what you asked for. You asked for X amount of dollars, you got discounts, you got all this stuff." And I just was like, I wholeheartedly disagree, because I got the number that I was asking for through ways that didn't necessarily look like $1,000 in cash, whatever the number was. Because through the credit line increase, I was able to build my credit even further and go down the line to buy a house, to buy a second car. So if one were to limit themselves into thinking that something has to be directly correlated with something, like if I do romance magic and I don't get a mate within 30 days, then I think it didn't work. Or did you become more attractive to the person you wanted to be attracted to? Did you like start cleaning up your face, start looking better, start going to the gym? Like all these things, even though they're not the exact result that the person wanted, are steps in that direction. So that's like, again, goes to the choices, that these are subconscious choices too. Because it's not even like, should I go to the gym today? Okay, let me check. Maybe something will go to the back of their mind. I gotta look good. I gotta make myself feel better, build that confidence up.
Right.
So that's where I go with what you described a few minutes ago.
Yeah, no, definitely. And that does align because, it takes me back to what I said about it beginning on the inside, right? Like, yes, we're doing magic, romance magic or whatever to manifest a partner because that's what I want. I want a partner. I want a mate. But what it's bringing me is alchemizing my energy on the inside so that I can be like at a resonance that will attract that perfect mate for me, you know? And same thing with other magic. If I'm doing like something for my career, like wealth magic, I think is big in this too. It not only did, yes, external circumstances change, but a lot within me has changed in just the last few years of how I approach work, what setting clear goals, being more disciplined, more confidence, and being more like just hardworking. A lot of things that are necessary to achieve the goal that I asked for in wealth magic. And that's just sort of how magic works, right? Like we do it perhaps sometimes to my cats here to bring us an external thing, person, event, whatever. But it's the whatever we have inside is going to essentially affect the outside, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so I think that that's the same with quantum jumping, or quantum shifting, right? Like if I am, if I have no car, no, I'm living couch surfing on friends' apartments, I live like a dead end job. How am I going to align with my timeline of like being a movie star, being a writer or something? you know and
Mm-hmm.
it starts with, well, first of all, do I feel even like worthy of that? Do I feel that I'm deserving of that? And I think a lot of times things happen that look unrelated, as you said, and because it's not bringing us exactly what we think should happen, but it's all necessary, and it I mean, I feel like I can almost barely even speak on how necessary it all is because I don't know, like I mean, but I do believe to some extent like that. I mean, shoot, like if I had never gone on Christmas Day to that meeting, however many years ago, 7 years ago, and met you, we wouldn't be sitting here doing this today.
I
We
was
would,
thinking about that when we started this conversation.
yeah, yeah,
There was
and
how many Christmas parties that year in all over Houston,
right.
and we
Yeah.
both happened to be at the same one.
Right. And if I didn't, if I didn't go to that one place and meet our mutual friend who
Yeah,
got me there, like all these little things. And then even there, because without getting into too much detail, like I ended up at that place meeting our mutual friend, not because I was making the best decisions for myself,
right, sure.
and so, but in hindsight, like I wouldn't have ended up there. Like all of that happened for a reason, you know. All of these maybe perceived as negative things are happening for our growth, perhaps sometimes to clear out what needs to be cleared out, or get us, just test us, really, just test us to see, like, to I don't, you know, at the time it's almost near impossible to describe, because at the time you don't even know what's happening,
Right.
right? But it's not until like hindsight, of course, when you're like, man, all that just was woven together perfectly. And I feel like I'm kind of just, hopefully this is still, people are still like listening or
Yeah.
following with what we're saying and stuff. But
Well,
yeah.
you're basically making a case study. I know you didn't give any details, but like I'm going through something challenging right now. One of our channels on for work got banned for misinformation on YouTube,
Oh no.
and I put 3 years of work into that thing, and
Mm,
so I was like, ah, man, it was I was tearing my hair out, not literally but figuratively,
yeah.
and I kept thinking to myself, I can't be down on myself and like just let okay, so what you're basically describing through a
Mm,
challenging situation turned into something so beautiful. So I started trying to tap into that kind of energy, into that consciousness. So I started brainstorming, and then I thought, okay, you know what? Maybe Twitter X would be a good platform. Then I started digging even further, and I thought to myself, you know what? Getting banned on YouTube was probably a
mm,
very good blessing in disguise,
mm,
because the opportunity to do what we're trying to do, maybe tweak the business model just a tiny bit, but
mm,
we do it on X, we'll have exponentially more gains.
mm.
So this is that what I just described is a more secular, like work related thing,
Right.
but it's also metaphysical. That's what I hear from you when you were describing that the challenging time that you had made, the not so great decisions, had led you to a point to meet the mutual friend that led us to meet each other, that went on to become very formative years in the magic building, the personality development, the wealth development, and just like, like growth
Yeah.
phase of our individual lives.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I mean that can manifest in all sorts of ways, you know, and on different degrees too. Like it can manifest in little things, but those are just a couple examples. And so I think, you know, if people are struggling to find alignment, I mean, and myself included, if I'm struggling to find alignment, I can't see how everything is working for me, you know, but what I can do is begin to make choices that are aligned with the direction I want to go, aligned with what's in my best interest, even if not every choice is the quote unquote right choice, right? As long
Hmm.
as I'm intentional about wanting to do something different, that's that's huge, because having the intention just automatically, I feel like, inspires us into action, right? If our intention is strong enough for anything, then it's essentially unstoppable. So also in my quantum jumping video, I had talked about, I think I talked about it, I can't quite remember, but I might have talked about the, like, the power of intention, you know, and just believing that we can get to where we want to go to is one thing, and then intending that you know, I am going to do this or whatever. And then I think that sort of awareness will come as to maybe the necessary, or not the necessary, but the awareness will come as far as like the importance of the choices that we are making, you know, and some may seem more important than others. But I think as long as we have that intention and that clarity of vision, you know, with our magic to get us there, and with whatever we are visualizing, jumping timelines, then then I think that awareness will just does come, you know, and we start to question, like, is this working for me? Is this not working for me? You know? Yeah.
Okay. So one thing I want to kind of close out this video with, and it's very interesting to think about that everything that we've talked about so far today is about decisions. It's about things, that series of events that led up to the current moment that's going towards our end goal. Well, as a vote of confidence, if you have stumbled onto this video and you are watching this video, whether intentionally or through a random YouTube recommendation, well, maybe it's not accident. Maybe the universe is trying to guide you here to kind of understand what the quantum possibilities really are and is what it entails. So yeah, that's it for me.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, I think YouTube and the algorithms are really good at suggesting videos to people that need to see them, and I saw something the other day that I had reposted that was like everything always happens at the right time. The right thing always happens at the right time. I think one more point that I'll try to make is like, sometimes it may seem that, I kind of take it back to like the divine, to source, to something greater than ourselves that we can't know about, something beyond even magic, because the orchestration of things that may play out may not seem to be in our favor, and we may not see that it's in our favor until 20 years down the line or something. You know what I mean? And and but I think that it begins with the inside, right? With trusting that, with first of all having the intention to do something different, having the intention to just start by waking up earlier in the day. Like, if you can't change anything external from you at the time, you can always change your mindset. You
Mm-hmm.
can always change. I even posted about this recently, when it just in terms of like a scarcity mindset or an abundance mindset, because I myself was feeling sort of like having a lack mindset one day because I was just stressed out, and I was like, you know what, this is not helping anything. Like right now, I'm worrying about things that are so far down the line that like there's no way for me to know what's going to happen by then. So all I'm doing is making myself feel bad. Like nothing else is doing this to me. And so
Mm-hmm.
we can always, change our own resonance, our own alignment. It starts with us, right? And then we can
Mm-hmm.
move differently in the world. So I agree with what you said, just expanding on that point a lot. Like, I think that, the people that, like, I hope that the videos I make are helpful to people. And I hope that the people that stumble upon this video and have listened as far as you've listened have gotten something from it, have maybe heard like a phrase or two, or maybe a lot of phrases that you needed to hear to help guide you on this journey. I'm not ever going to tell people what they need to do, but just suggest that trying something different, listening to your body. Meditation is really great with this stuff. Turning inward and seeing like, ooh, is my stomach kind of hurting at the idea of going to dinner with these people? Or am I getting excited when I have this other plan in mind? And going with what resonates, not forcing ourselves to go against something that isn't meant for us. But then I will say, the universe the universe works in its magical ways, where even if we maybe make that choice that wasn't good for us, if it's really meant to be, if whatever was on the other side of these choices is really meant for us, eventually it will circle back around. It may take longer, we may have to go through more shit, but eventually we will get to
Mm-hmm.
where we are meant to be and
Mm-hmm.
what is aligned with us. So yeah, I'm off my soapbox now. Hopefully that
Awesome.
made sense. But
Yeah, well, I mean, it was awesome talking about this with you. So I appreciate another opportunity to be on here. Hopefully, you guys get value and love what we talk about, because I'm assuming that since I'm on here for like the what, fourth, fifth time, that maybe the audience actually likes it. So that makes me
yeah,
feel a little bit good. So
yeah, no,
appreciate you having me on again,
well,
Pixie.
of course, and even if they don't like it, I like it. So,
Yeah,
I'm
it
sure
is
you
fun.
like it. Yeah, it is fun, and hopefully viewers can have fun with us as they watch these videos. Hopefully you've learned something. Hopefully you've been inspired, or maybe you've heard something you disagree with, and if that's the case, then speak your mind, as long as it's like not mean. So, you know, I'm open to intellectual debates and not open to internet trolls. So, my cat's here ready for this all. So guys, thank you for taking the time to watch this video. Give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I would say subscribe to Arjuna's channel too. Please do, but he doesn't really make new videos anymore, so there won't be much new content, but the content you have on there is golden. So, you know, so
Awesome.
you still get some value out of it. So
Yeah.
I appreciate you so much. And I thank you for your time, taking the time out of your day of doing this with me, and I look forward to our next video.
Yep. See you on the next one. Take
Yeah.
care, everybody.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.